The sun was setting over the junkyard when heard the sound. It was small, weak, like a wounded animal trying to breathe. Stopped walking and listened. He was 52 years old and he had owned this junkyard on the edge of New Sol Colony for 20 years. He knew every sound this place made. The wind through broken ships, the rats in the metal piles, the distant hum of the colony city 5 miles away. But this sound was different. He put down his tools and walked toward the back of the yard. The evening light made long shadows between the piles of broken spacecraft and old machines, moved slowly. He was not a young man anymore, and his knees hurt when he walked too fast. The sound came again, a soft whimper, something in pain. Found the source near an old cargo container. There, hidden under a torn piece of ship hull, was something he never expected to see. A child. But not a human child. The creature was small, maybe the size of a 7-year-old human boy. Its skin was covered in dark blue scales that shimmered even in the low light. 2 small horns grew from its forehead, and a thin tail curled around its body. Its eyes were closed, and its breathing was shallow and rough. Knew what this was. Everyone in the galaxy knew. His first feeling was fear. They were one of the most dangerous species in the known universe. They were warriors, conquerors. Their adult form could grow to 12 feet tall, with claws that could cut through ship armor and fire that could melt steel. The Galactic Council had classified them as a threat species. Most colonies had standing orders to report any sighting immediately. Should call the authorities. That was the smart thing to do, the safe thing. But then the child opened its eyes. They were golden like 2 small suns, and they were filled with fear, pure, terrible fear. The kind of fear had seen before, long ago, in the eyes of his own son when the boy was sick and scared. His son had died 15 years ago. A disease that the colony doctors could not cure had held him until the end, feeling helpless and broken. Now, looking at this alien child, felt something shift in his chest, something he thought had died with his son. The child tried to move away, but it was too weak. It made a small sound of pain and curled into itself, expecting to be hurt. "Hey," said softly. He knelt down slowly, ignoring the pain in his knees. "Hey, little one, I am not going to hurt you." The child did not understand his words, had their own language, and this one was too young to know the common galactic tongue, but it seemed to understand his tone. It stopped trying to flee and just watched him with those golden eyes. Looked at the child more carefully. There were wounds on its body, burns, cuts. Some of them looked old and some looked fresh. This child had been hurt many times over a long period. Someone had been hurting this child. Felt anger rise in his chest. He was not a violent man. He had spent his life fixing things, not breaking them. But seeing those wounds made him want to find whoever did this and show them what human anger looked like. He pushed that feeling down. Right now, the child needed help, not revenge. "Okay," said, more to himself than to the child. "Okay, let us get you inside." He reached out slowly, giving the child time to see his hands. The flinched but did not pull away. Gently lifted the small body. The child weighed almost nothing. It was too light, too thin. It had not eaten well in a long time. Carried the child across the junkyard to his small house. It was not much, just 3 rooms built from salvaged materials, but it was warm and it was safe. He laid the child on his bed and went to get water and clean cloth. When he came back, the child was watching him with a mix of fear and something else. Confusion, maybe, like it did not understand why was not hurting it. "I know you do not understand me," said as he began to clean the wounds. "But I am going to help you. You are safe now. No one is going to hurt you here." The child made a small sound. It might have been pain from the cleaning, or it might have been something else. Chose to believe it was the beginning of trust. He worked for 2 hours, cleaning wounds and putting medicine on them. The child stayed still the whole time, watching everything did. Its golden eyes followed his every move. When he was done, sat back and looked at his work. The wounds would heal. The child would live. But there was more wrong here than just physical injuries. This child had been treated like an animal, no, worse than an animal, like a thing, a product. Had heard stories about children. They were valuable in the black market. Some species bought them as exotic pets. Others used them for fighting rings. And some did not want to think about what some buyers did with them. This child had escaped from something terrible, and somehow it had ended up in its junkyard. "You need a name," said. He thought for a moment. "I will call you. It means bright in the old Earth language, because your eyes are bright like little suns." The child blinked at him. It did not understand the name yet, but it would learn. Stood up and went to his small kitchen. He made a simple soup from vegetables and protein paste. He did not know what ate, but he figured something warm and soft would be good for a sick child of any species. He brought the soup back and held a spoon to his lips. The child hesitated, smelling the food. Then slowly it opened its mouth and tasted the soup. Its eyes went wide. It grabbed the bowl with both small hands and began to drink quickly, desperately, like it had never tasted anything so good. Felt tears in his eyes. When was the last time this child had a warm meal? When was the last time anyone had shown it kindness? "Slow down," said gently. "There is more. I will make more. You do not have to rush." Did not understand the words, but soft voice made it slow down a little. It finished the soup and looked at, waiting for something. A hit, maybe. Punishment for eating too fast. Instead, just smiled and took the empty bowl. "Good job, now rest. You are safe here." He covered with a blanket and sat in a chair nearby. He would not sleep tonight. He would watch over this child, this stranger from another world, this creature that everyone in the galaxy feared. Because had looked into those golden eyes and seen something that changed everything. He had seen a child. Just a child. Scared, hurt, and alone. And his heart could not overlook that. His heart could not walk away from a child who needed help, no matter what species that child was. Outside, the stars came out over the junkyard. Somewhere in that vast darkness, there were people looking for, people who wanted to hurt him, people who saw him as property, not as a living being. They did not know it yet, but they had made a mistake. They had let find his way to a human. And humans, as the galaxy would soon learn, were very protective of their children. Even the adopted ones. 3 weeks passed and began to heal. His wounds closed and became scars. His thin body gained weight. The fear in his golden eyes became less sharp, though it never fully disappeared. He still flinched at loud sounds. He still watched doors like he expected someone bad to walk through them. But he no longer ran from. That was progress. Learned many things about children in those 3 weeks. He learned that loved warm food and hated cold water. He learned that could not sleep without a light on. The darkness scared him. He learned that scales changed color slightly based on his emotions. They became darker when he was scared and lighter when he was calm. Right now, sitting at the small kitchen table, scales were a soft blue-gray. Calm, content. He was eating breakfast, eggs and rice that had made. Watched him eat and felt something warm in his chest. It was a feeling he had not felt in 15 years, not since his son was alive. He pushed that thought away. Was not a replacement for his son. Nothing could replace his son, but was someone who needed care and was someone who needed a reason to wake up in the morning. Maybe that was enough. "Good?" asked, pointing at the food. Looked up and nodded. He had learned to nod in the human way. He had also learned a few words of the common language, simple words like yes and no and food and sleep. And one more word, the most important one. "Good," said. His voice was rough, like rocks grinding together. Throats were not built for human languages, but he tried anyway because he wanted to understand him. Smiled. "Good, eat more. You need to grow strong." Went back to eating, went back to watching. This had become their morning routine. Would wake up early and make breakfast. Would wake up when he smelled the food. They would eat together in comfortable silence and then would go to work in the junkyard while explored the house. At first had worried about leaving alone. What if the child ran away? What if he hurt himself? What if someone came and found him? But never ran. He seemed to understand that this house was safe and he did not want to leave it. He spent his days looking at things, books, tools, pictures on the wall. Everything was new to him. Everything was interesting. Had found him once, holding the picture of son. Had looked at with a question in his eyes. My son, had said simply. He died long time ago. Had not understood all the words, but he understood the sadness in his voice. He had put the picture back gently and never touched it again. That was when knew that was not just intelligent. He was kind. Despite everything he had suffered, there was kindness in him. After breakfast, stood up and stretched. His back was sore as always, the price of getting old. I go work, he said to, using simple words. You stay here safe. Nodded, then he did something new. He stood up and walked too. He reached out with one small hand and touched his arm. His scales were warm, almost hot. Said, come back. The words were rough and broken, but understood them perfectly. Come back. Please come back. Do not leave me alone forever. Do not abandon me like everyone else did. Felt his eyes getting wet. He knelt down so he was at level and looked into those golden eyes. I will always come back, he said slowly and clearly. Always, I promise. Studied his face for a long moment. Then he nodded and stepped back. His scales were a light blue now, almost peaceful. Went to work, but he checked on through the window every hour. The junkyard kept busy. Ships came and went. People brought broken things and fixed them or took them apart for parts. It was honest work, simple work, the kind of work that let him think while his hands moved. Today, he was thinking about the future. He could not hide forever. Sooner or later, someone would find out. A customer might see him. A delivery driver might hear him. The colony scanners might detect his alien biology. And when that happened, would have to explain why he was hiding a child. The law was clear. We're a threat species. Any found in human territory was supposed to be reported to the Galactic Council. The Council would then decide what to do with them. Usually, that meant deportation back to space. But was a child, a hurt child, a child who had clearly been a victim of something terrible, would the Council care about that? Did not know, and that uncertainty scared him. He was so deep in thought that he almost did not hear the scream. It came from the house, high and sharp and full of terror. Dropped his tools and ran. He burst through the door and found in the corner of the living room, pressed against the wall. His scales were dark, almost black. His golden eyes were wide with fear. On the other side of the room stood a woman. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with short black hair and a mechanic's uniform. Her name was, and she ran the repair shop on the other side of the colony. Had known her for years. She was staring at like she had seen a ghost. She said without looking away from, what is that? Stepped between them, putting himself between, and he is not a what, he is a who, and he is scared, so please lower your voice. Finally looked at, her face was pale. That is a child in your house. Do you know what they are? Do you know what they can do? He is a child. He cannot do anything except be scared. They grow up to be monsters. Behind made a small sound, a whimper. He understood that word, monster. Someone had called him that before, many times probably. Felt anger rise in his chest. Do not call him that. He is not a monster. He is just a boy. Opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. She looked at his face and something in her expression changed. She had known for years. She knew about his son. She knew the pain he carried. And now she was seeing something else in his eyes, something fierce, something protective. She said more softly, I am not going to report you. I am not going to tell anyone, but you need to understand what you are doing. You are taking care of people will not accept this. People will be afraid. Then people will have to learn not to be afraid. It is not that simple. I know, his voice was tired. I know it is not simple, but I looked at this child, I looked at him, and I saw wounds. I saw fear. I saw a little boy who had been hurt by people who should have protected him. How could I walk away from that? How could anyone walk away from that? Was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed and rubbed her face with her hands. You always were too soft, even back when we were young. Soft is not the same as weak. No, it is not. She looked past that. The child was still pressed against the wall, but his scales were a little lighter now, less afraid. What is his name? Asked. It means bright. Nodded slowly. Then she did something that surprised. She knelt down and spoke directly to. Hello, I am sorry I scared you. I will not hurt you. Looked at, then back at. After a moment he gave a small nod. Stood up and turned to. You are going to need help. You cannot hide him alone. The colony is too small and people talk. What are you saying? I am saying I will help you. She smiled, but it was a worried smile. Someone has to keep you from doing something stupid. Felt relief wash through him. He had been alone for so long. Carrying this secret alone had been heavy. Now he had someone to share the weight with. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. We have a lot of work to do. She was right. They had so much work ahead of them. Protecting, teaching him, helping him grow. It would not be easy. But as looked at his golden eyes, at his slowly lightening scales, at the tiny hint of trust growing in his small heart, he knew it would be worth it. Every moment of it would be worth it. 2 months after arrived, the hunters came. Did not know they were hunters at first. They looked like ordinary traders, 2 aliens in a small ship that landed at the colony port. One was tall and thin with gray skin and 4 arms. The other was shorter and covered in brown fur with eyes like a cat. They called themselves merchants. They said they were looking for rare parts. They asked questions at every shop in the colony. But their questions were strange. They did not ask about ship parts or machine pieces. They asked about unusual activity, strange, anything out of the ordinary. They asked about missing cargo. Heard about them first. She came to his junkyard that evening with worry on her face. There are people asking questions, she said. Aliens, 2 of them. They came to my shop today. Stopped working and looked at her. What kind of questions? They asked if I had seen anything unusual lately, any strange creatures. They showed me a picture. Paused. Her face was pale. It was a picture of a child. It could have been. Felt cold spread through his body. He looked toward the house, where was sleeping. The child had no idea that his past was catching up to him. What did you tell them? I told them I had not seen anything. They did not believe me. I could see it in their eyes, but they could not prove I was lying. Moved closer and lowered her voice. These are not ordinary traders. I think they are slavers, the kind who deal in living cargo. Slavers, the word made his hands shake with anger. He had suspected that came from somewhere terrible. Now he knew for certain. They will search the whole colony, continued. They have scanners, equipment. They will find eventually. How long do we have? A few days, maybe. They are being careful. They do not want to cause trouble with the local authorities, but they will check every building, every home. They will find him. Stood still for a long moment, thinking. His mind raced through options. He could run with, but where would they go? He had no ship, no money for travel. He could hide better, but no hiding spot would fool advanced scanners. He could fight. The thought surprised him. Was not a fighter. He had never been in a real battle in his life. He was just an old junkyard owner with bad knees and tired hands. But when he thought about those slavers taking, something hard and hot grew in his chest, something that felt like fire. No, they would not take his boy. He would not allow it. "We need help," he said finally, "more than just the two of us." "Who would help us? Most people in this colony are scared of. They will not risk themselves for one." "Then we need to find the ones who are not scared, or the ones who hate slavers more than they fear." Thought about this. Then she nodded slowly. "I know some people, old miners, retired soldiers, workers who have seen bad things and do not like bullies. They might help if we ask." "Then ask everyone you trust." Left and went inside to check on. The child was awake. He was sitting on the bed, his golden eyes watching the door. His scales were dark with worry. "Bad people?" asked. His common language was getting better every day. "Bad people come." Sat down beside him. He wanted to lie, to say everything was fine, but he had promised himself that he would never lie too. The child had been lied to enough. "Yes," said, "bad people are looking for you, but I will not let them take you." Scales grew darker. "Go, leave, keep safe." "No," his voice was firm. "You are not leaving. We are going to stay together and we are going to fight." "Fight?" The word seemed to confuse. "Fight for?" "Yes, I will fight for you, because you are family now." Stared at him. His golden eyes were wide and wet. "Family. Family." The word hung in the air between them, had not planned to say it. But now that he knew it was true, was his family. Not by blood, not by species, but by something deeper. By choice. By love. Crawled into his lap and pressed his face against his chest. His small body shook and realized he was crying. Could cry, who knew? "Family," whispered, "family." Held him tight and let him cry. The next 2 days were busy. Brought people to the junkyard one by one. Some were old, some were young. All of them had hard eyes and steady hands. There was a retired colony soldier who had lost his arm in a border war. He said he hated slavers more than anything in the universe. He said he would be happy to make them suffer. There was Myra, a doctor who worked at the colony clinic. She was quiet and gentle, but her eyes went cold when she heard about scars. She said she had treated slaver victims before. She said she would help in any way she could. There was John, a young mechanic who worked with. He was nervous and talked too much, but he knew technology. He said he could build things. Weapons, maybe. Traps, definitely. And there were others. 12 people in total. Ordinary people with ordinary lives who decided that they would not let slavers take a child from their colony. On the 3rd day, the slavers came to the junkyard. Saw their ship land on the dirt road outside. He watched the 2 aliens walk toward his property. The tall gray one carried a scanner. The furry one carried a weapon. Met them at the gate. "Can I help you?" His voice was calm, his hands were steady. The gray alien smiled. It was not a nice smile. "We are looking for lost property. Our scanners indicate something valuable might be on your land." "Property?" "A creature, small-scaled, worth a lot of money. It belongs to us." "Nothing here belongs to you." The smile faded. "Old man, do not make this difficult. We are licensed traders with legal contracts. The creature we seek is our property by law. If you interfere, you will be breaking galactic trade regulations." "And if I refuse?" The furry alien raised his weapon slightly, not pointing it at but making sure saw it. "Then we take what is ours by force." Looked at the weapon. He looked at the 2 slavers. He thought about hiding in the basement of the house. He thought about the people waiting in the junkyard, hidden behind piles of scrap. Then he smiled. "You want what is mine," he said slowly. "You will have to come and take it." The gray alien's eyes narrowed. "You are making a mistake, old man." "Maybe, but it is my mistake to make." The slavers looked at each other. Then they pushed past and walked into the junkyard. They did not get far. Appeared from behind a pile of metal, his one remaining arm holding an old military rifle. Stepped out from a doorway, a welding torch in her hand. Jun emerged from a shipping container, surrounded by drones he had built from junk. One by one, the people of the colony revealed themselves. A dozen ordinary humans armed with whatever they could find. Not soldiers, not warriors, just people who had decided enough was enough. The slavers stopped walking. For the first time there was fear in their eyes. "What is this?" the gray one demanded. Walked up behind them. His voice was quiet but clear. "This is a message," he said. "The child is not your property, he is our family, and humans protect their family. You cannot do this, the law. The law says nothing about protecting a child. The law says nothing about standing up to slavers. If you want to complain about the law, go find a court. But right now, in this place, the only law is mine." The slavers looked at the armed humans surrounding them. They looked at each other. They looked at. The furry one raised his weapon. Fired first. The shot hit the ground at the slaver's feet, kicking up dirt. A warning shot, a message. "The next one goes through your knee," said calmly. "Then your other knee. Then we see how many other parts we can hit." The slavers did not move. Stepped forward until he was face to face with the gray alien. "Leave. Leave this colony and never come back. Tell your employers, tell your friends, tell everyone in the slaving business. This child is protected. Any attempt to take him will be met with force. Human force." The gray alien stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly he smiled again. But this smile was different. This smile was a promise of revenge. "This is not over," he said. "I know," replied, "but today you leave, today we win." The slavers backed away slowly, keeping their eyes on the armed humans. They returned to their ship, and the engines powered up with a loud roar. As the ship lifted into the sky, felt a small hand grab his. Had come out of hiding. He stood beside, watching the ship disappear into the clouds. "Bad people gone?" he asked. "For now," said, "they will come back, more of them probably." Nodded, his scales were still dark, still worried, but there was something else in his eyes now. "Hope. We fight again?" he asked. Looked at the people around him, his neighbors, his friends, his fellow humans who had stood up for a child they barely knew. "Yes," he said, "we fight again, as many times as it takes." Squeezed his hand. "Good." The slavers returned 1 week later with 3 ships and 20 armed soldiers. Watched them land from the roof of his house. The morning sun made their ships shine like silver knives cutting into the earth. He counted the soldiers as they formed lines outside the colony gates, professional, organized, dangerous. This was not a trading party. This was an invasion. "They brought an army," said beside him. Her voice was steady but could see the fear in her eyes. "They did. We cannot fight that many. We can try." Turned to look at him. "Be serious. We have a dozen people with old weapons. They have trained soldiers. We will die." "Maybe," kept watching the soldiers. "But dying while protecting something you love is not the worst way to go. There has to be another way." Was quiet for a moment. Then he climbed down from the roof. "Get everyone to the junkyard. Tell them to bring whatever they have, and tell to stay hidden no matter what happens." "What are you going to do?" "I am going to talk to them." Grabbed his arm. "You cannot go out there alone." "I am not going to fight them alone. I just need to buy us time." He gently removed her hand from his arm. "Trust me." He walked through the colony toward the gates. People watched him from their windows. They knew something was happening. They knew trouble had come. The slaver commander was waiting outside the gates. He was a large alien with blue skin and too many teeth. His armor was expensive, and his weapon was bigger than his leg. "You are the old man," the commander said, "the one who threatened my people. I protected a child from your people. There is a difference. The child is property. It belongs to the merchant consortium of the Outer Rim. You have stolen it, and we are here to take it back. He is not property, he is a boy." The commander laughed. It was an ugly sound. You humans are so strange. You get attached to things that are not yours. You fight for causes that are not your business. You die for creatures that would eat you if they were bigger. Maybe, said, but that is what makes us human. It is what makes you stupid. Shrugged, perhaps, but I notice you brought 20 soldiers to fight one stupid old man and his friends. That seems like a lot. The commander's smile faded. I brought enough to make sure there are no problems. There are always problems. Life is problems. The question is whether you are willing to pay the price for solving them. What price do you think you can make me pay? You have nothing. No weapons, no ships, no power. Looked past the commander at the soldiers. They were watching the conversation with interest. They were professionals, but they were also people. They had families. They had friends. They had things they cared about. I have a question, said loudly, making sure the soldiers could hear. How many of you have children? The commander frowned. What? Your soldiers, how many of them have children at home? Sons, daughters, little ones who wait for them to come back. Some of the soldiers shifted uncomfortably. The commander's frown deepened. Do not play games with me, old man. It is not a game. It is a real question. Looked at the soldiers directly. The child you are here to take, he is 7 years old in human years. He was beaten, burned, starved. He has scars all over his body from people who were supposed to take care of him. When I found him, he flinched every time I raised my hand because he expected to be hit. Silent, some of the soldiers looked away. He is not property, continued. He is a child, someone's child, and somewhere in this galaxy there might be parents who wonder what happened to him, who cry for him, who pray that someone somewhere is keeping him safe. Enough, the commander stepped forward. I do not care about your speech. The creature is valuable and we will take it. If you resist, we will kill everyone in this colony. Is that clear? Met his eyes, very clear. Good, you have 1 hour to bring the creature to us. If you do not, we will come in and take it ourselves, and we will not be gentle. The commander turned and walked back to his soldiers, watched him go, then returned to the junkyard. The others were waiting for him. Myra, Jun, and 8 more people from the colony, ordinary people with scared faces and determined eyes. What did he say? Asked. We have 1 hour, then they come in. 1 hour, Jun laughed nervously. 1 hour to prepare for 20 soldiers, that is not much time. It is enough time. Everyone looked at, he took a deep breath. We cannot win a straight fight. We are not soldiers, but we do not need to win, we just need to make them lose. What do you mean? The junkyard is my territory. I know every pile, every path, every hiding spot. We can turn this place into a trap. We can make them pay for every step they take. Nodded slowly. Ambush tactics, hit and run, make it too expensive for them to continue. Exactly. They worked fast. Jun set up his drones with cameras and small explosives, positioned himself in a hidden spot with a clear line of fire. Myra prepared a medical station in the basement where she could treat wounds, and the others spread out across the junkyard, each finding a hiding spot with something they could use as a weapon. Found in the basement, the child was sitting in the corner, his scales almost black with fear. Said, "Hear things, bad people back." Yes, knelt down in front of him. They are going to attack soon, but we are ready. Scared. I know, it is okay to be scared. Being scared is normal. Scared. Thought about the question. He thought about the soldiers outside. He thought about the very real possibility that he would die today. Yes, he admitted, I am scared too. But fight anyway. Yes, because some things are worth being scared for. Looked at him for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He stood up and moved to a corner of the basement. He pushed aside some boxes and pulled out something hidden there. It was a small crystal about the size of a fist. It glowed with soft orange light. Hide this, the child said, from bad people before. What is it? Fire stone, held it carefully. Fire stone, very strong, very dangerous. Understood. This was something from his past, something the slavers had tried to take from him, something he had managed to keep hidden. Why are you showing me this now? Looked at the stone, then at his golden eyes were serious. Want help, want fight too. You are too young to fight. Not fight with hands, fight with this. He held up the stone. Can make fire, small fire, scare bad people. Wanted to say no. He wanted to keep safe in the basement, far from danger. But he looked at the child's face and saw something there that he recognized. Pride, dignity, the need to protect those you love. Did not want to hide while others fought for him. He wanted to stand with his family. Okay, said, but you stay near me, always. If I tell you to run, you run, promise. Promise. They went up together. The hour was almost over. The attack came at noon. The soldiers moved in formation, professional and efficient. They entered the junkyard expecting easy targets. They found chaos instead. Jun's drones hit first. Small explosions went off around the soldiers, not enough to kill but enough to confuse. The formation broke as soldiers scattered for cover. Fired from his hidden spot, one soldier fell, then another. And the others attacked from the sides. They were not skilled fighters, but they were angry and they were fast. They hit and disappeared, using the junk piles as shields. The commander screamed orders. The soldiers tried to regroup, but the junkyard was a maze and people knew every path. The fighting lasted 30 minutes. It felt like 30 hours. Moved through the chaos with at his side. He carried an old pipe as a weapon, not much but better than nothing. They ran into 3 soldiers near the center of the yard. The soldiers raised their weapons, stepped forward and held up the fire stone. Light exploded from the crystal, not fire exactly but pure heat. The air between and the soldiers turned white hot. The soldiers screamed and fell back, their armor scorched. Swayed, using the stone had cost him something. Energy maybe, strength. Caught him before he could fall. You did good, rest now. More coming, whispered. He was right, more soldiers were converging on their position. 5, 6, 7 of them. Held close and looked at the soldiers. This was it, the end of the road. Then a sound filled the air, a loud, deep sound that made the ground shake. Everyone stopped and looked up. Ships were descending from the sky, not slaver ships, different ships, ships with colony markings, ships from the neighboring settlements. The first ship landed and people poured out, humans, dozens of them, armed and angry. Someone had called for help. Someone had sent word to the other colonies, and the other colonies had answered. The slaver commander looked at the new arrivals. He looked at his wounded soldiers. He looked at the angry humans surrounding him from all sides. He made a choice. Fall back, he ordered. Fall back to the ships. The soldiers retreated. They carried their wounded and ran. They reached their ships and lifted off, fleeing into the sky like shadows running from light. Cheers erupted in the junkyard. Humans from different colonies embraced each other, laughing and crying with relief. Sat down on a piece of scrap metal. His legs were shaking. His hands were shaking. Everything was shaking. Climbed into his lap and pressed against his chest. We win, the child asked. Looked at the sky where the slaver ships had disappeared. He looked at the humans around him, celebrating their victory. He looked at the small dragon child in his arms. Yes, he said, we won. For now, they had won for now. But knew this was not the end. The slavers would tell others what happened here. Word would spread across the galaxy. A small human colony had stood against armed soldiers to protect a single child. Some would call it foolish, some would call it dangerous. But some, maybe many, would call it something else. They would call it human. And that thought was the whole point. 1 year later, received a message from the Galactic Council. He was in the junkyard when it came, fixing an old navigation system while helped by handing him tools. The child had grown taller in the past year. His scales were brighter, his eyes were sharper, and he smiled more often now. He still had nightmares sometimes, but they were getting less frequent. Read the message 3 times before he believed it. He said slowly, "We need to go inside." They sat at the kitchen table and explained what the message said. The Galactic Council had received reports about the incident at New Sol Colony. They had received many reports, actually, from many different sources. Slavers had complained about humans interfering with legal trade. Merchant groups had demanded action against the colony. Political factions had argued about what to do with the dangerous precedent that had been set. But they had also received other reports. Reports from humanitarian organizations, reports from child welfare groups, reports from species across the galaxy who had heard the story and found it interesting. A human had found a wounded child in his junkyard. Instead of calling the authorities, he had taken the child in. He had fed him, healed him, and protected him. When slavers came to take the child, the human had refused to give him up. He had gathered his neighbors and fought. And when the slavers came back with an army, the humans had fought again. Not just one colony, but many colonies. Ordinary people with ordinary lives who decided that protecting a child was more important than following rules. The Galactic Council did not know what to make of this. Were a threat species, they were dangerous, violent, everyone knew this. It was simple common knowledge. But this story complicated things. Because this story was not about a dangerous warrior. It was about a child. A scared, hurt child who had been rescued by someone who should have been his enemy. The council had debated for months. They had argued and fought and threatened each other, but in the end, they had reached a decision. Was granted protected status. He was no longer classified as a threat species member. He was now officially recognized as a ward of New Sol Colony under the protection of human law. Any attempt to take him would be considered an act of aggression against human territory. The slavers who had attacked the colony were being investigated. The merchant consortium had lost its trading license in human space, and a new conversation had started across the galaxy, a conversation about how other species treated their children. Finished explaining, sat very still, processing the information. "Safe?" he finally asked. "Yes, you are safe, really safe, forever. Bad people cannot take. No one can take you. You are protected by law now, by human law." Scales shifted through colors, dark blue, light blue, almost white. Had learned to read these colors over the past year. This was joy, pure, overwhelming joy. Stood up from his chair and climbed onto his lap. He wrapped his arms around his neck and held on tight. His body shook with silent sobs. "Thank you," whispered. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Held him close and felt tears running down his own face. "You do not need to thank me. You are my son. Protecting you is what fathers do." They stayed like that for a long time. The news spread quickly across the galaxy. Not just the official news from the council, but the story behind it. The story of and became famous. People told it in bars and markets and schools. They told it to their children before bed. They told it to each other when they needed to believe that kindness still existed in the universe. Some told the story as a warning. They said it showed how dangerous humans were, how they would fight against anyone, anywhere, for any reason. They said other species should be careful around humans, because you never knew what might make them angry. Others told the story differently. They said it showed how humans were different from other species, how they did not care about politics or profit when children were involved, how they would adopt strangers and fight armies for people who were not even their own kind. Both versions of the story were true, in their own way. Visitors came to New Sol Colony. Some were journalists who wanted to write about it. Some were scientists who wanted to study how a child adapted to human culture. Some were just curious people who wanted to see the famous junkyard where it all started. Did not like the attention. He was a simple man who just wanted to live his simple life. But he let some visitors come because enjoyed meeting new people now. The fear that had lived in the child's eyes was almost gone, replaced by curiosity and confidence. Other visitors came too, different visitors. Visitors. The first one arrived 6 months after the council's decision. She was tall and beautiful, with scales of deep green and eyes like emeralds. She said she was a diplomat from the... Was nervous. He stood in front of his house with beside him, watching the approach. "You are the human called," she said. Her voice was low and musical. "I am. And this is the child you saved. His name is..." The diplomat looked at for a long moment. Then she did something did not expect. She knelt down until she was at level and spoke to him in the language. Answered, his words were slow and uncertain. He had been learning his native language from recordings, but he had no one to practice with. Still, he managed to communicate. The diplomat listened, then she smiled. "He says you are his father," she told. "He says you are kind and good and that he loves you very much." Felt his throat tighten. "I love him too." The diplomat stood up. "The has been watching your story with great interest. We have many problems with our children being taken by slavers. We have fought wars over it. We have lost many little ones. I am sorry to hear that. When we heard what you did, a single human protecting a child against armed slavers, we did not believe it. We sent investigators to confirm the story. They confirmed everything." She paused. "You could have turned him over. You could have walked away, but you did not." "No, I did not." "Why?" Thought about the question. He thought about the night he found in the junkyard. He thought about those golden eyes filled with fear. He thought about his own son, dead for so many years. "Because he needed help," said simply, "and I could help, that is all." The diplomat was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into her robe and pulled out a small metal badge. It was shaped like a flame and covered in writing. "This is the fire mark," she said. "It is given to those who have shown exceptional bravery and compassion. No one has ever received it before." She held it out too. "The thanks you, of New Soul Colony. We will not forget what you have done." Took the badge, it was warm in his hand. "What does the writing say?" "It says, protector of fire, one who shields the flame from the wind." Looked at, the child was beaming, his scales bright with pride. "I do not need badges or titles," said. "I have everything I need right here." The diplomat smiled. "Yes, I believe you do." She left the next day, but others came after her. More who wanted to meet the human who had saved one of their children. More humans who wanted to shake his hand. More visitors from other species who wanted to understand what had happened. Accepted them all with patience and humility. He did not think of himself as a hero. He had just done what any person should do when they see a child in need. But that, perhaps, was what made him special. Months later was sitting on his porch, watching play in the junkyard. The child was 9 now in human years. He was learning to read, learning to write, learning all the things that children should learn. He had friends in the colony, human children who had been scared of him at first but now thought of him as just another kid. Came by with drinks. She sat beside and handed him a glass. "You look thoughtful," she said. "I was thinking about the future," admitted. "About what happens when grows up. He will grow bigger than me, stronger than me. He might want to return to his own kind someday." "Does that worry you?" Sipped his drink. "A little, but mostly I think I will just be proud of the person he becomes, whatever that person looks like, whatever that person does." In the junkyard, found something interesting and ran toward the porch to show. His golden eyes were bright with excitement. His scales shimmered in the afternoon light. Father, look what I found." Father, the word still made his heart warm. Show me, he said. Held up a small mechanical bird, an old toy that had built years ago and lost. Can we fix it? Can we make it fly again? Smiled, we can try. They went inside together, father and son, human and two unlikely people who had found each other in the junk and the chaos of the universe. And somewhere across the galaxy, other species watched and whispered. They whispered about humans, about how strange they were, about how dangerous they could be, about how they would fight against impossible odds for people who were not even their own kind. But mostly, they whispered about something else. They whispered about hope. Because if one old man in a junkyard could change the fate of a child, could change the conversation between species, then maybe anything was possible. Maybe the universe was not as dark as everyone thought. Maybe, just maybe, there was enough kindness left to save them all. And that was the message, the real message, the one that spread from star to star, from world to world, from heart to heart. Humans do not ask if someone deserves saving. They simply save them,